breaking Israeli news, literally boots on the ground, and that's what's going on. Avi, I'm very honored that you would make the time to join me right now, and you are not far from your Shabbat, where you are in the world. On a lighter note, before we dive in, what's that looking like for you right now as you prepare for Shabbat?
Well, firstly, I have to confess that I do not prepare for Shabbat. My wife, Rachel, she prepares for Shabbat. I just sit back, relax, and enjoy it. And then she yells at me for being overweight, and then she says, have some more. So, and she's terrible. I mean, Rachel is my worst enemy. She just cooks and cooks and cooks. And, you know, like, how dare me not show how wonderful her cooking is, you know? So,
and of course,
you know, I'll make another confession also. And I think I mentioned this once on a previous show we did. Remember the movie Patton?
Yes.
So there's one part there where he's in the middle of this battle, and there's all this gore on the battlefield, and soldiers, you know, wounded and bleeding, and tanks going up in fire. And Patton says to his aide de camp, "God forgive me, but I love this so much." And
course,
it's terrible to say, you know, but I am glued to the TV morning, day, and night. My wife watches the other TV with other stations. And so we're constantly crisscrossing information that we're receiving. And this is like what Rachel did for 30 years at the radio and TV. And what I've been doing, you know, speaking in churches for 33 years is just, you know, collecting the information. And we're getting the information like a fire hydrant.
Wow.
So, you know, like, so this is like, I mean, I miss coming out to GLC and coming out to West Texas and Florida and the North and the South and the East and the West. But, you know, like, I'm here, my wife is stuffing me with food and we're watching TV. It's like, this is the best show in town. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but, you know, like, we are on the cutting edge as far as information.
Well, you are. And you know, it just shows the resilience of the Israeli people, always in a state of readiness, you know, always steadfast, even in observing the Sabbath, even in observing Shabbat, in the midst of war. And I hope that America doesn't have to learn that, but I think that she will. But here you are, you know, you're alive and your family's alive. And of course, Israelis under constant rocket fire at times through the decades have learned that warrior mentality. It's an amazing thing to be able to compartmentalize that, to be on the ready, to always be ready to get to a bomb shelter, you know, when the sirens go off, and yet to thrive as a people and to be the world's leader in so many areas. You know, a lot of people don't realize all the things that Israel does around the world in leading the way. So many technological areas, and of course, you know, the Red Sea alone, the things that come out of the Red Sea that are a blessing to the world, you know, the Dead Sea, I should say, the Dead Sea. And so anyway, here you are and you're alive. And, you know, it doesn't matter what the mainstream media is saying, no matter where you go. What are the people on the street saying, and what does Avi say right now, boots on the ground, live in Israel?
Okay, well, firstly, after the tragic attack 2 weeks ago, the war that was declared on us, the Israeli government was enlarged to include opposition leaders. And everyone is in total unity now. Everyone is in total agreement that we have certain goals to achieve in this war. And we're not going to stop until Hamas is completely destroyed. We're not saying destroy Gaza. You know, you've got 2 million civilians there. We're talking about 50,000 Hamas terrorists and Islamic Jihad that must be annihilated. These people must be annihilated. We will hunt them down, we will find them, and we will kill them. Now, the problem after that is what happens to the people of Gaza, 2 million. And there are two approaches. One is these people all get the hatred of the Jews in their mother's breast milk. In other words, it's not just Hamas, it's all of the people in Gaza. Some people are saying they all deserve to die. I'm of the opinion that in World War II, people were saying, even Winston Churchill said there are no good Germans after the bombing of Dresden. And I think what happened after World War II was that the German people, Nazism was banned, Nazi leaders were hanged, or put in jail, at least for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And the German people today are allies. And the German people today are, I don't want to say liberal. Liberal is a bad word, but there's no more Nazism. You have a few crazy Nazis, but the overall society is democratic, is Western, and Germany is an ally of Israel today. So it's like saying in 1945, annihilate the whole German nation because of all the wars that involve Germans. But Germans are good people like any other people. And my faith is that Gaza Arabs, we allowed the Hamas to indoctrinate first grade school children and up that the Jews are monkeys and apes and that the Christians are pigs.
Right.
And so this hatred, which is taught to them, now has to be untaught. So the question, and I don't have the answer, because the problem is a religious problem. The problem is Islam, which says the Jews are monkeys and the Christians are pigs. I don't know if we can change the educational pattern in Gaza. And if we cannot change the educational pattern in Gaza, then basically we have only one choice, which we cannot do. The world won't let us do it. So at this point, Israel is sticking to its plan, which is to find the Hamas leaders, destroy them, destroy the tunnels, destroy the infrastructure of Hamas. I'll give you some breaking news. And that is, I'm listening on the TV. I don't know if it's true, but I've been thinking about it, that after we took hundreds and hundreds of Hamas prisoners, we know exactly where all the Hamas leaders are. And guess what? We know where all the prisoners are, all the hostages. We know where they are. So what Israel is doing now is training intensively our troops how to go into those tunnels, because the tunnels are death traps for the Israeli soldiers. Going into the tunnels, destroying the Hamas, and getting the hostages out of there and to safety. Now, on the other hand, I read about 2 hours ago a Hamas announcement that 50 of the 229 hostages are dead. They say because of the Israeli bombing. So, in war, there's always a lot of uncertainty about things. But the bottom line is Israel anyway has to go in and clear out the tunnels. So if we know where they are and we have the ability with our commandos to go in, kill Hamas terrorists and release the hostages, that's what we're going to do. So what's in the news now is that Qatar, who is a great enemy, Qatar is the financier of Hamas. They're saying that, we're going to negotiate and we're going to get the people out, maybe two at a time. So I think Israel is saying, okay, this has been going on now for 2 weeks, and the time has come now to put an end to it. Actually, no, I think tomorrow is 3 weeks already. So that's where we are. And the spirits of the Israeli people are very high. Everyone is mobilized. I wanted to tell you something else also. In the past, on your shows, I was talking about how I was very upset with the ultra-Orthodox Jews who study Torah and then they don't go to the army.
Right.
Well, guess what? There are thousands of ultra-Orthodox men who have thrown everything off to the side and they're all signing up, going into the army. And there are jobs that ultra-Orthodox men can do, like drivers and medics and I hate to say it, identifying human body parts, because these Hamas people chop people up. I mean, this is ISIS. They behead people, they chop off arms and legs, they do all kinds of crazy things. So there is now a unity in the land of Israel that we never, ever had. And, in Israel, we have 4 main stations. We watch 14. 14 is the is the Zionist, conservative, and religious station. 11, 12, 13 are controlled by the left. And it's very depressing to watch because they're always attacking Netanyahu, attacking. And Netanyahu and all the generals said there will be an investigation into the failures of this operation, of this war, but only after the war is over. Meanwhile, we go into the battle regardless of political viewpoints. But the other three stations keep attacking the right wing. So Rachel and I get very depressed, and most Israelis who we know, they're all watching 14. Channel 14 is the right-wing station. So we're hanging in there. We're waiting to see the developments as they happen.
Is there any addressing of the Biden administration giving billions to Iran, and the Egyptians proving that the NSA knew about this before it happened, that the left, the rhinos and the Democrats kept it quiet and still went through with funding to Iran, knowing that money would end up in the hands of terrorists?
Well, I think the Israeli government has been silenced over what Biden knew and what Biden did not know. And you have to remember, America, regardless of who the president is, America is the best friend and the greatest ally Israel has. And even with Biden, we are being now given tremendous amount of arms to defend ourselves. And I will say something else also. I am a Sovietologist. If you remember, when we spoke about Russia many times.
Right.
I think that this is going to expand into a war with Hezbollah in Lebanon and into a war with the Iranian Ayatollah regime. We are ready for this. We have been training for this. And you have no idea how many top U.S. military officers are in Israel right now and all the time. And American officers are in the most secret rooms with the Israeli officers. And listen, it doesn't matter who the president is, let's say. I mean, it does matter. But if President Biden wants to attack Iran, is he going to come out and say, hey, we're going to attack you guys? No, he's going to say, no, let's talk. We have to find the peaceful way.
Unless it's leaked. We've seen all the leaks that came out from the same side of the aisle, even during the Trump administration. So
listen, the third aircraft carrier group is on its way to the Middle East. 3 aircraft carrier groups. And, Hamas should have started a war with us, together with Gaza. And you know what? The Gazans, they messed up. The Gazans were going to do a war simultaneously with Lebanon and Iran against Israel. You know what happened? They heard, okay, now I'm going to say some very bad things now. You know how Jews are supposed to keep the Sabbath? And this war started on the 7th of October with a big orgy on the Gaza border of almost 1,000 young Israeli kids breaking the Sabbath, going out for dancing and taking drugs and drinking alcohol and doing all kinds of stuff which young people do. But they did it in such a way, and they were broadcasting it on the social media, and they complained to the Israeli police that Hamas was breaking into the social media discussions saying, we're coming to get you, we're coming to get you. And the police said, no, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to happen. So there were warnings. But the point is, these people, you would not find religious boys and girls going to this love fest, this nature fest. The kibbutzim, the collectivized settlements where the Jews live near the Gaza border, they're all left wing, they're all socialists. And they were all in support of peace with Gaza. I mean, the very people who are going against what God is telling us to do, because they're socialists and don't believe in God and they don't believe in the Sabbath and they don't believe in the Jewish tradition. It hurts me to say it, but 1,400 people died, including, of course, many religious guys went to fight.
So let me get this straight. 1,400 people that were breaking the Sabbath.
Not 1,400 breaking the Sabbath. The number of soldiers who died, it was 310 soldiers and 58 policemen and women. So it's about, let's say, 400 people in uniform went to save 1,100 who were either killed or kidnapped.
So 1,100 people that were technically breaking the Sabbath,
right?
That had, or at least, the organizers of their event were sympathizers to Gaza.
Well, again, not sympathizers to Gaza. They were anti-Netanyahu, anti-right-wing, pro-peace. Pro-peace does not mean they're pro-Hamas, but it means that they were going against the ideology of the present government.
Wow. And yet, just like our nation's finest, law enforcement and military still paid the price defending those who were against the current government. Time and time again, we see that anytime there is a move towards coexisting, you cannot coexist with an ideology that is a scorched earth ideology. And how many decades need to pass, folks, before we realize that we're dealing with an ideology that literally says in their book to kill all who do not follow their God. And,
right.
Of course, in Genesis, it said that Ishmael will be his descendants will be a jackass of a man, right? Always at war with each other. The Bible is true. And so you cannot coexist with an ideology that will not coexist with you. And so 1,100 people approximately that were breaking the Sabbath, that were predominantly socialist, leftists, not for the current government, which is all about protecting the sovereignty of Israel, not about multiculturalism. They lost their lives, unfortunately. How tragic and interesting. Avi, there's times that we see the news, even examples in movies. I'll turn to my bride and I'll say, you know what? Don't be there. Don't be there. You hear the stories of murder or abductions and such at 3 a.m., outside of a bar. Don't be there. And here's another example of don't be there. Had they observed the faith of their fathers, they most likely would have been alive today. What a strong way, a harsh way to learn that there is wisdom. There is wisdom in God's law. And so, my goodness, wow. I did not realize that.
I wanted to add also that these are the same people. I mean, it's not good to talk bad about dead people, but these are the same people who were demonstrating in Tel Aviv against Netanyahu and against the judicial reform, because that was the ideology of the left. And former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who I think should be put before a firing squad, he said there will be blood in the streets of Tel Aviv. There will be blood in the Yarkon River when Jews come to kill Jews. He was pushing for a civil war and a military coup d'etat against Netanyahu. And God brought unity to the Jewish people because of this tragedy.
Yes. Well, you know what? There are scriptures that say that he works everything to the good, that those who love him and called according to his purpose.
Right.
And, you talked about not knowing which voices to believe. Winston Churchill once said that during wartime, truth is so precious, she must be surrounded by a bodyguard of lies. And, wartime is wartime. It's confusing. When you watch the mainstream media, it's confusing. You see billions of dollars being given to those who fund terror. Now we have two proxy wars again, right? And my goodness, but at what point will there be addressing, correct me if I'm wrong, but has it always, well, I think I already know the answer to that. I know that Bush, George W. Bush was pushing for Israel to give away more land, and he was supposedly a Republican. You can't trust either side now, of course. It's just one side, rears its head more for everything vile than the other side does. But both sides are just as corrupt. you know, but correct me if I'm wrong, but is Trump the only president in your memory that has not pressured Israel to give away strategic land?
Correct. Absolutely correct. And that's why I voted for Trump twice. And if I'm called to go and vote, I'm an American citizen also, by the way.
Right.
I'll vote for Trump a third time.
Wow. So right now, wow. Now, what you just shared with the tragedy of the loss of life and the crowds, not the military, not the police, but the crowds of people were predominantly leftists. Is that common knowledge on the streets of Israel?
Sort of. I wanted to add another thing also, and I know we kind of touched on this in past programs that we've done together, but the Israeli political superstructure is totally dominated by socialism.
Right.
And for example, I'll give you a very short history. In 1947-48, when Ben Gurion declared independence, the idea was that all the members of the different undergrounds would come together in one army, and they did. But what happened was all the commanders of the Irgun and the Lehi, the Stern Group, were basically not given real positions. And the only people who got the real leadership positions were socialists. And so from 1948 till today, you cannot become a general in the Israeli army if you are right-wing. You cannot rise above colonel if you are right-wing. Only socialists. So Israel makes the same mistakes over and over and over again from 1948 until now because the generals are all socialists. So those people who come and blame Netanyahu, they don't understand Netanyahu is only doing what the generals are telling him to do, which is based on false assumptions. So the generals were saying, no, the Egyptians and Syrians won't attack us on Yom Kippur. What did they do? They attacked. No, Gaza won't attack us. They attacked. And again, there were people on the front lines who saw it coming and they warned. And the generals, who were all socialists, did nothing about it. And so who gets blamed? Netanyahu. But Netanyahu cannot go against the generals. Let me tell you, there has been fear in this country of a military coup d'etat against Netanyahu by the socialist generals. Listen, I've been living here 55 years. And, I went through a whole lot of things in my life where the socialists persecuted me. And it was you guys, the Christians, who took me in and helped me to feed my family. I mean, this is not funny. Many Israelis had to flee this country because of the socialist dictatorship.
Amazing. So in light of that, do you think that what you just shared will become better known among the people with these socialist generals who conveniently just happen to be wrong? I mean, who are they working for? I mean, I think I know the answer to that.
They're working for the globalists.
Which, by the way, yesterday, some major meat producers, over here in America, 2,400 food processing centers mysteriously burned to the ground. And of course, now there's bug meat in our sausage, and interesting. They want to drink their Chardonnay and eat their caviar and their steak, but they want you eating bugs, folks. Same globalists of the World Economic Forum, of the Nazi Klaus Schwab, who says, if you will know, you will own nothing and you will be happy. And you know what? I hope that there's some type of awakening amidst this unity in Israel in light of these attacks, that maybe they might see a pattern. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Do citizens see the voting process as hopeless as many Americans today do?
Listen, I got a telephone call, I think I mentioned this earlier, from my former military commander. And she said, this is not a military call-up, but it's a civilian group that is now doing PR for the state of Israel. Would you join us? And I said to her, listen, I'm ready to come right now to Tel Aviv and work with you guys. But the point is, if anybody checks out Avi Lipkin on the computer, you will see I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for saying that Allah is the devil and Islam is not a religion, but a criminal psychosis. And you know what? They're going to attack you. I said to my commander, And, I love you. I respect you. I really do. I said, so think about it. Maybe you don't want to have me on your team because all your team are the same type of left-wing socialist people. But you see, in Israel today, I cannot get up and say Allah is Satan and Islam is criminal psychosis. People are now beginning to say it on Channel 14. But I'm not being invited for interviews. You have no idea how much I appreciate doing interviews with you. I would be willing to do an interview with you every day for 1 hour and just, get all the information out. Because here in Israel, I'm invisible. I mean, I'm lucky I'm not dead, but I'm invisible. That's the best case scenario. And we have a problem. After the war is over, there's going to be massive investigation of all the faults. Now, what's the problem? All the judges are socialists. So if the judges are socialists, they're not going to judge the generals. And we, again, will be getting close to a civil war. We almost had a civil war in Israel before the war.
Wow.
So we're going to go back to that again. So meanwhile, who knows? Maybe there'll be a war for Israel for a whole year. Because if we have to go to war with our American allies and the Brits against Iran, maybe against Russia. I mean, I really hope we don't go to war with Russia because they can drop 3 atom bombs, no more Israel. And Russia's too close to us.
Amazing.
That's one of the reasons why Israel is very, very slow in coming on board with the Ukrainian war, because we personally have nothing, no bad relations with Russia. But Russia, if you make them angry, the Russian bear, who knows what can happen to Israel? Our job is to keep Israel alive, and we wish the Ukrainians all the success. But we have to put Israel first.
I hope that this surge of unity will shed light on past patterns. I would hope so. We talked about Germany and Germans. We can't give Germans a hard time anymore because America is making the same mistake. And it sounds like that Israel, had it not been under attack recently, was rapidly heading the same direction as well. It's almost like the equivalent of Antifa over here having a rally and terrorists kill them. You don't want a loss of life, but a scorched earth, ignorance of history and failed policies and a move towards communism. You don't want that either. So it's such a tragic loss of life, And, but it just goes to show folks that, we have consequences to our decisions, good or bad, happy or sad. I pray that we return to the faith of our fathers, and I pray that Israel returns to the faith of theirs. So thank you again, Avi. We'll see you next time.
Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.